Madam Secretary, I've watched you for years, even before I came to Washington. And
excuse me, it's okay.
When I have time, I do. I enjoy reading your speeches. I think you're what cool looks like. You're a good sport to go out every day and try to defend Bidenomics. It's like trying to defend a fungal infection. Bidenomics is really just paying more to live worse, isn't it? These high prices caused by Bidenomics are here to stay, aren't they?
Well, the high prices were not caused by Bidenomics. We suffered a pandemic that resulted in severe dislocations.
Yes, ma'am, but if I could ask you, they're here to stay, aren't they?
I don't expect the level of prices to go down.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I gotta tell you guys, just when you thought it could not get worse for Joe Biden, it continues to get worse because apparently this guy has some terrible advisors, okay? I think that his advisors actually don't want Joe Biden to be president anymore because they might be ready to quit. I don't know, man. If I was Joe Biden, okay, if he was in his right state of mind, he should fire these people because they are definitely giving him some bad ideas. Like, for example, going out and having a press conference after the DOJ came out with a report saying that you're not mentally fit enough to be president, and then showing the world during this press conference exactly why you're not mentally fit enough to be president of the United States. Again, absolute disaster for Joe Biden on the PR front. And his week just continues to get worse because he put out what I can only describe as an extremely tone-deaf message on Super Bowl Sunday ahead of the Super Bowl. Instead of doing a Super Bowl interview with CBS, I believe they wanted to do a interview with Joe Biden, and for a second year in a row, he declined because I'm assuming that his handlers told him not to do it because he's probably going to fumble and bumble through the interview in an incoherent way. But instead, they're putting this out, okay, where Joe Biden is basically talking about shrinkflation on Super Bowl Sunday. And this message definitely was not perceived the way that the Biden team thought that it would be perceived by the general public. I have no idea what they were thinking when they decided to let Joe Biden put out this message for Super Bowl Sunday. Let's get into it.
The Super Bowl Sunday. If you're anything like me, you like to be surrounded by a snack or two while watching the big game. You know, when buying snacks for the game, you might have noticed one thing. Sports drinks bottles are smaller. A bag of chips has fewer chips, but they're still charging you just as much. And as an ice cream lover, what makes me the most angry is that ice cream cartons have actually shrunk in size, but not in price. I've had enough of what they call shrinkflation. It's a ripoff. Some companies are trying to pull a fast one by shrinking the products little by little and hoping you won't notice. Give me a break. The American public is tired of being played for suckers. I'm calling on companies to put a stop to this. Let's make sure businesses do the right thing now.
Wow. Again, I'm not sure who at the White House told Joe Biden that this was a good idea, right? And that you should put out a Super Bowl ad basically talking about the results of Bidenomics, the results of Joe Biden and Democrats' policies over the last few years, which has been inflation, which, you know, that's what Biden's calling shrinkflation, but it's actually really inflation, okay? That's what Joe Biden's actually really talking about here. And I just don't think that this message is going to be perceived the way that they think that it's going to be perceived. I think that Joe Biden is essentially admitting here that, yeah, our policies have caused these companies to, provide less for more. And that is a result of all the things that we've done, right? That's my takeaway from it, okay? But let's see here in the comment section because Joe Biden's getting absolutely roasted for this tone-deaf Super Bowl message. Jack Posabit says, shrinkflation so bad it's hitting your remaining brain cells. Imagine being so dumb you admit what's happened under your administration. The Quartering says, bro, it's not shrinkflation, it's building back better. Yeah, that's building back better, right? Building back better, exactly what Joe Biden just described. Sarah Gonzalez says, the lack of self-awareness here is truly remarkable. Sour Patch Lid says, I too would like a quick word with the guy responsible for this. Yeah, that person should be fired, right? Absolutely fired. AGA Barbie says gaslighting. I mean, yeah, that's exactly what it is. And everybody kind of knows it, that shrinkflation really is just inflation.
Fortunately, we're in the middle of a tidal wave of shrinkflation because of inflation.
When a country destroys its currency, they try to hide it. Wage and price controls and what they do. But before that happens, they try a market phenomenon. Well, take, if you have a cereal box, just cut off 5 or 10% of the cereal. People will never notice. Well, sometimes they don't notice, but eventually they do, because the one thing is, it isn't the corporations shrinking the substance they're selling is the main problem. It's the government and the big spender and the liberals who want to print money at will and get involved with so much economic planning and welfareism and wars overseas. And that gives shrinkage of the dollar.
Yeah, so like I told you guys, Biden is getting roasted. I don't think that message is going to resonate the way that he thinks it is going to resonate. But he's not just getting roasted for that. He's also getting roasted for, again, what is obvious about how his administration is being ran. Not by him, but by everybody around him.
So let me get this straight. Less than a month to Election Day, and this is our candidate?
Yep. All we have to do is get him elected, and then we can do whatever we want.
Stop it. Stop it.
This fall, get ready for a presidential candidate unlike any other.
I think we're good.
Not good.
别忘了拜登 ，Hunter 还欠咱们呢。
Weekend at Biden.
How long do we have to keep this up?
November 3rd.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a pretty accurate representation of how they usually deal with Joe Biden, right? They basically drag him around everywhere because he's an empty suit, right? There's not much going on upstairs, okay? So with that being said, somebody that used to be a handler within the Biden administration but is now a propagandist on, the mainstream liberal media, Miss Jen Psaki, is going to sound the alarm on what is happening with Joe Biden and what must be going on in the White House in regards to the concerns about Joe Biden and his deteriorating condition.
Such a great point, Peter. Jen, I talked to sources who say the gaffes are baked in. It's who Joe Biden is. He's the only one who can get out and fix this. And yet here we are on Super Bowl Sunday for a second year in a row. He declined to do the Super Bowl interview. Was that a mistake, the chance to not see 60 million viewers? And what do you make of what Peter's saying, the shift in strategy?
Well, look, I think it's a close call if you're sitting in the White House, because frankly, the media environment has massively changed since that Tim Russert clip of him hosting Meet the Press from the Super Bowl. That just would never happen today.
Yeah.
They know that.
Maybe next year we'll be at the Super Bowl.
Maybe. If you're them, you're calculating. First of all, they were asked to cut it down to 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Any smart reporter, which CBS has plenty, would have asked him about things like Gaza and events in the world, and people are just trying to have chicken wings at this point. So I will say, just to add to Peter's point, I mean, if you're sitting in the White House and on the campaign right now, you're absolutely banging your head against the wall at the way that the Thursday report has been covered, given all of the things that have happened this week, including, and I know you asked Chris Christie about this, the fact that Donald Trump yesterday suggested that Vladimir Putin should have free rein in attacking NATO allies.
Yeah. No, he did not. Right. Again, here's another lie for the mainstream liberal media. That's not what Trump said. Here's actually what Trump said, so you guys can understand the context of what Trump actually said. Take a look.
They asked me that question. One of the presidents of a big country stood up and said, well, sir, if we don't pay and we're attacked by Russia, will you protect us? I said, you didn't pay? You're delinquent? He said, yes, let's say that happened. No, I would not protect you. In fact, I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want. You got to pay. You got to pay your bills.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that, okay? What Trump is saying is that, well, first and foremost, he was telling a story, okay? He was telling a story about a guy saying, look, well, we don't pay our bills, right? We don't hold up our end of the bargain, the agreement, because NATO is a defense alliance, okay? The whole point is that it's supposed to be about defense, and you're paying for defense, okay? AKA the U.S. military to protect you, because that's really what they mean by defense, the U.S. military. Yeah, we don't pay our bills. Are you going to protect us if Russia attacks? Now, what would a smart leader say in that situation, right? A leader that actually is not just going to let people free ride and freeload off the United States. Well, a smart leader would say exactly what Trump just said. Well, yeah, I mean, if you don't pay, then no, we're not going to defend you because you're not holding up your end of the bargain. In fact, you know, we'd say, look, Russia can do what the hell they want to do because ultimately at the end of the day, what you're afraid of is Russia attacking you. So if you're not paying, then who are we to come in and tell Russia what they can and can't do? Okay, who are we to say what Russia should or should not do if you're not paying your bills, right? So if you're afraid that Russia might attack or invade, then you need to pay your bills, right? It's called negotiating, right? It's called making these nations that think they can freeload off the United States. It's called making them fulfill their obligations by putting fear in them that if you don't, then, hey, we're going to turn the other cheek, right? We're not going to really do anything if Russia decides to invade, okay? You are scaring them into fulfilling their obligations, right? That's what Trump is doing. Trump was being strategic, okay? He's making sure that the U.S. doesn't get screwed over by our so-called allies, right? But when Trump was in office, he did not pull out of NATO. Trump actually said things and made warnings to NATO. Like, for example, he warned Germany about being too reliant on Russia and what that might mean in case of Russia aggression.
Germany is totally controlled by Russia because they were getting from 60 to 70% of their energy from Russia and a new pipeline. And you tell me if that's appropriate, because I think it's not. And I think it's a very bad thing for NATO, and I don't think it should have happened. And I think we have to talk to Germany about it. On top of that, Germany is just paying a little bit over 1%, whereas the United States in actual numbers is paying 4.2% of a much larger GDP. So I think that's inappropriate also. You know, we're protecting Germany, we're protecting France, we're protecting everybody, and yet we're paying a lot of money to protect. Now, this has been going on for decades. This has been brought up by other presidents, but other presidents never did anything about it because I don't think they understood it or they just didn't want to get involved. But I have to bring it up because I think it's very unfair to our country. It's very unfair to our taxpayer. And I think that these countries have to step it up, not over a 10-year period. They have to step it up immediately. Germany is a rich country. They talk about they're going to increase it a tiny bit by 2030. Well, they could increase it immediately tomorrow and have no problem. I don't think it's fair to the United States. So we're going to have to do something because we're not going to put up with it. We can't put up with it, and it's inappropriate. So we have to talk about the billions and billions of dollars that's being paid to the country that we're supposed to be protecting you against. You know, everybody's talking about it all over the world. They'll say, well, wait a minute, we're supposed to be protecting you from Russia, but why are you paying billions of dollars to Russia for energy? Why are countries in NATO, namely Germany, having a large percentage of their energy needs paid, you know, to Russia and taken care of by Russia? Now, if you look at it, Germany is a captive of Russia because they supply. They got rid of their coal plants. They got rid of their nuclear. They're getting so much of the oil and gas from Russia. I think it's something that NATO has to look at.
Yeah, Trump looks like a prophet, right? All those things he said about NATO, fast forward to today, Trump looks like a prophet, but that's his business mind, okay? Because he's been in business so long, he understands how business works. He understands how leverage works. He understands that you must fulfill your obligations. We can't get screwed over. You can't be paying 1% of your GDP while we're contributing a lot more as a percentage of our GDP. And at the end of the day, if Russia attacks, who is going to commit the most troops? Who is going to lose the most lives? Who's going to foot the bill for most of the war? We are, right? So you got to pay your fair share, homie, if you want to be protected. Okay, don't think that you can just freeload off us, and if you don't increase your budget and your contributions to NATO, that we're going to fulfill our obligation, because we're not. Right? This is how you get people to pony up the money. This is how you get people to fulfill their end of the agreement, by saying that, look, if you don't fulfill your end of the agreement, we're not going to fulfill our end of the agreement. Otherwise, why would they do it? Right? Otherwise, why would they pay into it if they know that we're going to defend them no matter what? Again, this is Trump is playing chess. These people are playing checkers. Again, this is the latest outrage from the media about Trump's comments on NATO, but Trump is 100% right. He really is.
And what do we see when we wake up this morning? Wall-to-wall coverage of whether a guy who's 4 years older than his opponent is too old to be president.
Yeah, and we are going to get to NATO.
Well, Go ahead. Part of the job to bring that to the front is the president's job, to bring that out and attack his opponent. I mean, the president is not taking the opportunity on Super Bowl Sunday. He's not taking really any opportunities, and we hear him time and again.
First of all, that's not true. It's not being covered. He has traveled just as much as Donald Trump, as Barack Obama. It is hard to break through the cloud of Donald Trump in this media environment. That is true.
You know as well as anyone.
Joe Biden has traveled and done as much speaking and talking as Donald Trump. That's just not true, right? That's just objectively not true. Okay, Biden is the most inactive president that we've had ever, right? Ever, when it comes to that.
He's done fewer interviews, fewer press conferences than his predecessors.
Exactly.
And we hear this. We heard from his spokespeople earlier. We're led to believe that there's two Joe Bidens. There's one behind closed doors who's super sharp, who's not shown his age at all. And then when he steps out, we see him every time. It's just not there. And we have to imagine there are people.
Yeah, it's called lies, right? They're lying to you. Gaslighting.
People making a decision because they are behind closed doors with Joe Biden, and they are also seeing some slippage.
And Amna, the challenge for the Biden campaign and for the president is changing voters' minds, because when you look at the polls, 76%, we're not talking about 50%, 76% say they have these concerns.
It's an insignificant amount of people who are worried about this, and the majority of Democrats. To Brendan's point, we know, look, the president's defense has always been, when you ask me about my age, he says, watch me do the work. And the fact is, the chances to watch him are just rare. He's done much fewer interviews. He's done fewer news conferences than both Presidents Obama and Donald Trump at this point in his presidency. I know we all have interview requests in. You know, Mr. President, we would love to speak with you. But the fact is, people are concerned. Democratic officials on the ground are also concerned, not necessarily those who are in the room with him. They say he is sharp, he is competent, but they're worried about the growing perception. Here's the thing, though. When the polls ask, are you worried about President Biden's age? People say yes. What the polls aren't asking is, are you so worried you're not going to vote for him against a man who's been 4 times indicted, is facing 91 felony counts, and that is where the rubber meets the road.
That's the question.
It is, well, and the question also, Jen, how much buzz is there inside Democratic circles about changing the top of the ticket? What is in the Washington Post? What I read effectively.
Well, first of all, look, I was in the Biden world for about a year and a half in an official basis. And if every time there was an anonymous person in the Washington Post or any outlet suggesting that they wanted someone to change it at the top of the ticket, if they listened to that every time, they'd be like in the fetal position under their desk.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, right.
I don't actually hear a lot of people saying that they think that's a reality of what may happen. There's always speculation of like looking for the magical unicorn of somebody who has 50 years of foreign policy experience, who's also 37 years old and can like run across the field at the Super Bowl to campaign for president. That doesn't exist. What the Biden campaign needs right now is for people to realize that like he is going to be the nominee. This is the choice.
Yeah, Peter, let me.
Yeah, well, again, I think that if Biden's a choice, if they don't pull him out, then it's over, right? It's over. I mean, there's no way. This guy he's an empty suit, man. I mean, like they don't even want to roll him out for a Super Bowl interview. I mean, an opportunity to speak to 60 million people and they're like, nah, we'll pass, right? Again, that's how bad it is. 60 million people, they're like, nah, we're not going to do it. Again, one of the biggest platforms in the world, nah, we're okay, okay? They're keeping this guy in the basement. And they're keeping him in the basement for a reason. And the American people know what the reason is. I think that Joe Biden has to be replaced. If he's not replaced, it's going to be a landslide victory for Trump. It is what it is. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.